Dr. Kim Tae-ho was closing up his small veterinary clinic for the night. The frontier station Kepler 7 was quiet at this hour, with most colonists already asleep. He had spent another long day treating the usual cases: sick farm animals, injured, pets, and the occasional exotic creature that traders brought through the station. Life on the outer rim was simple but predictable. That predictability shattered when his clinic door exploded open with a thunderous crash. A figure stumbled inside, gasping for breath. Tae-ho dropped his medical supplies and stared. The being before him was clearly not human. She stood about his height, but her skin had a pale blue tint that seemed to shimmer under the clinic lights. Her hair was silver white and moved like it was underwater. Most striking were her eyes, large violet orbs that seemed to hold depths of emotion he had never seen before. But what really caught his attention was what she carried in her arms. The creature looked like it was made of living crystal. It was about the size of a house cat, with a translucent body that pulsed with weak, flickering lights. The lights were fading fast, going from bright blue to dim amber to almost nothing at all. The alien girl, Nari, she kept saying her name was Nari, held the creature close to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she said in broken English, her voice thick with desperation. "Help. Help my friend." Tae-ho had never seen anything like either of them before. In all his years of veterinary training back on Earth, nobody had prepared him for treating alien life forms. He knew human anatomy, Earth animal biology, even some of the modified creatures that humans had brought to the colonies. But this crystalline being was completely outside his experience. Nari placed the creature gently on his examination table. Up close, Tae-ho could see that it was even more beautiful and mysterious than he had first thought. The crystal body was perfectly clear, like the finest glass, but inside he could see what looked like a network of glowing veins. These veins pulsed with light in rhythm, like a heartbeat, but each pulse was weaker than the last. "Soul bond," Nari whispered, touching the crystal creature with infinite gentleness. "My soul bond dying." Even without understanding her language perfectly, Tae-ho could feel the depth of her anguish. The way she looked at the creature, the way her hands trembled as she touched it. This was not just a pet, this was family, this was love in its purest form. The creature made a sound then, a soft chiming like wind through crystal tubes. It was the sound of something fading away, something precious being lost forever. Nari sobbed harder, and Tae-ho felt his heart break a little. He had become a veterinarian because he could not stand to see any living thing suffer. It did not matter that this being was alien, that he had no idea how to help it, that every instinct told him this was beyond his abilities. What mattered was that Nari needed help, and her soul bond was dying. "Okay," he said quietly, rolling up his sleeves. "Let me see what I can do." Nari looked up at him with hope and gratitude. That needed no translation. Sometimes, Tae-ho thought, compassion was the most universal language of all. Tae-ho carefully positioned his medical scanner over the crystalline creature. The device hummed to life, sending gentle waves of energy through the soul bond's transparent body. What he saw on the screen made him frown deeply. The readings were unlike anything in his medical textbooks. Instead of the familiar patterns of cells and tissues he knew from Earth animals, the scanner showed something that looked like a three-dimensional web of light. Thousands of tiny threads connected throughout the creature's body, pulsing with information and energy. But something was terribly wrong. The threads were breaking apart, dissolving like sugar in water. Each time one snapped, the light in that area dimmed a little more. It was like watching a beautiful tapestry unravel thread by thread. "This is bad," Tae-ho muttered to himself. He had seen genetic disorders before in Earth animals, but never anything this severe or this strange. Nari watched anxiously from beside the examination table. She kept one hand gently touching her soul bond, whispering soft words in her musical language. The creature responded with weak chimes, but each sound was fainter than the last. What do you see?" Nari asked in her broken English. Tae-ho showed her the scanner display. "Your friend's its genetic structure is falling apart, like the instructions that tell its body how to work are being erased." Nari's violet, eyes filled with fresh tears. She nodded sadly and began to speak, mixing her own language with English words. Through her broken sentences and hand gestures, Teho began to understand a heartbreaking story. Nari's people, she explained, were called the Lyrians. They had medicine far more advanced than anything humans had developed. Their healers could cure diseases that would be impossible for human doctors to even understand. But this condition, this genetic cascade failure, had stumped even their greatest medical minds. 5 healers, Nari said, holding up her fingers. 5 best healers. On homeworld, all say no hope, all say my soulbound will die. She pulled out a small device that projected holographic images. Teho saw pictures of Lyrian healers, tall, elegant beings with the same blue-tinted skin and silver hair as Nari. They stood around examination tables with equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. Crystals that glowed with their own light, machines that seemed to bend space around them, tools that defied human understanding. They try everything, Nari continued. Energy healing, molecular reconstruction, quantum cellular repair. Nothing works. They say genetic threads too damaged. Say soul bond cannot be saved. Teho stared at the images, feeling very small and very human. If beings with such advanced technology could not help, what chance did he have with his basic frontier clinic equipment? But then something clicked in his mind. He thought about the genetic therapy techniques he had learned in veterinary school. Human medicine might be primitive compared to Lyrian technology, but it had one advantage. It was designed for messy, imperfect biological systems. "Wait," he said, his excitement growing. "Your people's medicine is very advanced, right?" "Maybe too advanced for this kind of problem." Nari looked confused. "Too advanced?" Teho pulled up information about human gene therapy on his computer. "Look, human medicine is not as fancy as yours, but we learned to fix genetic problems by being creative, by using simple solutions for complex problems." He showed her diagrams of how human doctors use modified viruses to carry healthy genetics material into damaged cells. It was crude compared to what he had seen of Lyrian technology, but sometimes crude solutions worked, when elegant ones failed. "Maybe," Teho said slowly, "your soul bond does not need advanced healing. Maybe it needs basic healing done in a new way." The clock on the wall showed 3 in the morning, but Teho felt wide awake. He had spent the last 4 hours studying everything he could about the soul bond's condition. Coffee cups littered his desk, and his eyes burned from staring at computer screens. But he was onto something big. Nari sat curled up in a chair beside the examination table, never leaving her soul bond's side. The creature's light pulses had grown even weaker, and Teho knew they were running out of time. Every few minutes, Nari would whisper something in her language, and the soul bond would respond with a barely audible chime. "I think I have an idea," Teho finally said, breaking the quiet of the clinic. "But I need to warn you, it's very dangerous." Nari looked up with tired but hopeful eyes. "Dangerous how?" Teho pulled up his research on the main screen. "On Earth, when we have genetic diseases, we sometimes use viruses to fix them. We take a virus, a tiny organism that invades cells, and we change it so it carries healthy genetic material instead of making people sick." He showed her simplified diagrams of how the process worked. The virus enters the damaged cells and delivers the correct genetic instructions, like a messenger carrying a repair manual. Nari studied the images carefully. "But soul bonds are not like Earth creatures. We are crystalline, not biological." "That's exactly the problem your healers had," Teho said excitedly. "They were thinking too much like your people. But what if we treat your soul bond like it's partly biological? What if the crystal structure can be influenced by the same methods we use on Earth animals?" He began preparing his equipment, hands, moving quickly but carefully. The plan was simple in theory but terrifying in practice. He would take a modified virus, one designed to carry genetic repair instructions, and introduce it into the soul bond's failing system. The virus would hopefully recognize the damaged genetic threads and begin repairing them. "The risk," Teho said as he worked, "is that your soul bond's body might reject the treatment completely. Earth viruses have never been used on crystalline beings before. It could cause a massive immune reaction. What does that mean? Nari asked quietly. Tae-ho stopped working and looked at her directly. It means the treatment could kill your soul bond instantly, instead of saving it. The clinic fell into heavy silence. Nari stared at her dying companion, watching the lights grow dimmer with each passing moment. Finally, she spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. If we do nothing, soul bond dies anyway. If we try your treatment, maybe it dies quickly, or maybe it lives, yes? Yes, Tae-ho confirmed. Those are the only choices. Nari gently stroked the crystal creature's surface. My people say soul bonds choose their partners. When I was young, this one chose me. We have been together 15 Earth years. It knows my thoughts, shares my memories. If it must die, I want to know we tried everything. She looked up at Tae-ho with determination. Do the treatment. Tae-ho nodded and began the final preparations. He loaded the modified virus into a specialized injector, his hands steady despite the pressure. This was unlike anything he had ever attempted. He was combining human medicine with alien biology in a way that had never been done before. This might hurt, he warned Nari's soul bond, though he was not sure if it could understand him. The creature made a soft chiming sound, almost like it was giving permission. Tae-ho positioned the injector and took a deep breath. Here we go. The soul bond had been sleeping peacefully for 6 hours now. Its crystal body glowed with a steady, gentle light, not as bright as before, but stable, and growing stronger each hour. Tae-ho checked the monitors again, hardly believing what he was seeing. The genetic threads were rebuilding themselves, slowly but surely. Nari sat beside the examination table, but she looked different now. The desperate panic from the night before was gone, replaced by something Tae-ho couldn't quite identify. She seemed more composed, more confident, like she had dropped a mask she had been wearing. Dr. Kim, she said, and her English was suddenly much better than before. I need to tell you something important. Tae-ho looked up from his equipment, surprised by the change in her voice. Your English improved a lot overnight. Nari smiled, but it was a sad smile. I was not being completely honest with you. My real name is Dr. Han Yi-seo. I am what you would call a chief medical officer in the Lyrian Empire. Tae-ho blinked in confusion. You're a doctor? But you acted like you didn't understand medical terms. I understood everything, Yi-seo admitted. I have studied medicine for over 60 Earth years. I have healed thousands of patients across dozens of worlds. I speak 17 galactic languages, including perfect English. Then why did you pretend? Tae-ho asked, feeling a bit hurt by the deception. Yi-seo stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars beyond the station. Because I was ashamed. In my culture, seeking help from what we consider primitive species is seen as admitting failure. I told myself I was only coming to you as a last resort, that a simple human veterinarian could not possibly succeed where our greatest healers had failed. She turned back to face him, and Tae-ho could see genuine emotion in her violet eyes. I was so wrong, not just about your abilities, but about something much more important. What do you mean? Yi-seo gestured toward her soul bond. In the Lyrian Empire, we are the most advanced medical civilization in the galaxy. Our healers are respected and feared across hundreds of worlds, but we have become cold, Dr. Kim. We heal because it is our duty, because it maintains our reputation, because it serves the Empire. She paused, watching her companion's steady breathing. But you risked everything for a creature you had never seen before, belonging to a person you had just met. You worked all night without asking for payment or recognition. You were willing to try an impossible procedure that could have failed completely. Tae-ho shrugged, feeling embarrassed. It was the right thing to do. Any veterinarian would have done the same. No, Yi-seo said firmly. That is exactly my point. Any Lyrian healer would have calculated the odds, considered the political implications, worried about their reputation if they failed. You just saw a dying creature and a desperate person who needed help. She sat back down, her expression thoughtful. There are legends in our ancient texts about beings who heal purely from compassion, who risk everything for strangers without expecting anything in return. We always thought they were just stories, myths about impossible virtue. They're not myths, Taeho said quietly. They're just human. Yiseo nodded slowly. I have traveled to 100 worlds, Dr. Kim. I have met healers from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, but I have never seen anything like what you did last night. You succeeded where we failed, not because your technology was better, but because your heart was bigger. The soul bond stirred on the table, making a soft, contented chiming sound. Both doctors turned to look at it, and Taeho could swear the creature's light pulsed a little brighter. Your people, Yiseo said softly, may be more advanced than we ever imagined. 3 days had passed since the treatment, and Taeho could hardly believe his eyes. The soul bond that had been dying on his examination table was now floating gracefully around the clinic, its crystal body blazing with brilliant light. But something was different, something that made both doctors stare in amazement. The creature was bigger than before, and its crystal structure had changed completely. Where once it had been clear like glass, now it sparkled with rainbow colors that shifted and danced as it moved. Most surprising of all, it seemed more aware, more intelligent. Its large eyes followed conversations, and it responded to its name with complex musical patterns instead of simple chimes. This is impossible, Yiseo whispered, running her scanner over her companion for the 10th time that morning. These readings, they don't make sense. Taeho watched the soul bond play with a ball of light it had somehow created from thin air. What exactly are you seeing? Yiseo showed him the scanner display, her hands trembling with excitement. Its genetic structure isn't just repaired, it's been completely upgraded. The threads that were breaking apart have multiplied and strengthened, but more than that, there are new patterns here, new capabilities that didn't exist before. Cry pointed to sections of the readout that glowed with different colors. Look at this neural network development. My soul bond's intelligence has increased dramatically. And here, these energy channels are completely new. It can manipulate matter at the quantum level now. As if to prove her point, the soul bond created a small crystal flower and presented it to Taeho with a melodic trill of happiness. Your treatment didn't just heal the damage, Yiseo continued, her voice filled with wonder. It somehow combined human genetic repair techniques with Lyrian crystalline biology to create something entirely new. You've accidentally triggered an evolutionary leap that should have taken millions of years. Taeho accepted the crystal flower, marveling at its perfect structure. How is that even possible? I just used basic gene therapy. That's exactly why it worked, Yiseo explained, eagerly. Lyrian medicine is so precise, so controlled, that we never allow for unexpected changes. But human genetic therapy is messier. It encourages adaptation and mutation. When you introduced Earth viruses into a crystalline system, you created a biological-technological hybrid that neither of our species had ever imagined. The soul bond settled on Taeho's shoulder, humming contentedly. He could swear he felt a warm presence in his mind, as if the creature was sharing its thoughts with him. Yiseo was already working frantically at her communication device. I have to report this to the Lyrian Medical Council immediately. This discovery will change everything we know about healing and evolution. Wait, Taeho said, suddenly worried. What does this mean for my patient? Is it safe? Are there side effects we don't know about? Yiseo paused and looked at her soul bond with deep affection. The creature responded by creating a small light show, patterns of color that seemed to express pure joy and gratitude. I've never seen it happier or healthier, she said softly. But you're asking the right questions. We're in completely uncharted territory now. She turned back to her communication device. The medical council will want to study this immediately. They'll send research teams, xenobiologists, genetic specialists. This little frontier clinic is about to become the most important medical facility in the galaxy. Taeho felt overwhelmed. I just wanted to help a sick animal. I never meant to revolutionize galactic medicine, Yiseo finished with a smile. Dr. Kim, what you've accomplished here will be studied for centuries. You've proven that sometimes the simplest approaches can achieve the most extraordinary results. The soul bond chimed agreement, its rainbow lights pulsing in what looked remarkably like laughter. Within a week of Yiseo's report to the Lyrian Medical Council, Taeho's quiet life changed forever. The first sign was when he arrived at his clinic one morning to find a line of beings waiting outside, beings unlike anything he had ever seen before. There was a tall, insect-like creature with 4 arms and compound eyes that sparkled like jewels. Beside it stood a being that looked like it was made of living metal, its surface shifting and flowing like mercury. A family of small, furry creatures huddled together, their 6 legs trembling with nervousness. "Dr. Kim," Yiseo called out as he approached, her soul bond floating beside her in a shimmer of rainbow light. "I hope you are ready for visitors." Tae-ho stared at the diverse group of alien beings. "What's happening here?" "Word has spread through the galactic communication networks," Yiseo explained. "The story of how a human veterinarian saved a Lyrian soul bond using impossible methods has reached every corner of known space. These beings have all traveled here with cases that their own medical systems could not solve." The insect-like being stepped forward, its translator device crackling to life. "Dr. Kim, I am Kree of the Mantis Collective. My offspring carries a genetic disorder that has baffled our hive mind healers for 3 generations. We have heard of your unconventional methods." Behind Kree, the metallic being's voice resonated like a tuning fork. "I am Unit 47 of the Silicon Republic. My consciousness matrix is fragmenting. Traditional repair protocols have failed. Perhaps organic healing principles might succeed where digital medicine has not." Tae-ho felt overwhelmed. "I don't know anything about your species. I might make things worse." "That is exactly why we came to you," said one of the furry creatures in a high, musical voice. "You do not think like our doctors. You see problems differently. Sometimes different is what we need." Over the following days, Tae-ho found himself treating patients he never could have imagined. Each case required him to completely rethink everything he knew about medicine. For the Mantis offspring, he combined Earth antibiotic techniques with crystalline energy healing borrowed from Yiseo's people. For Unit 47, he applied principles of biological nerve regeneration to digital consciousness repair. The results were remarkable. Not every treatment worked perfectly, but Tae-ho's success rate was far higher than anyone expected. His willingness to combine techniques from different species, to think outside traditional medical boundaries, led to breakthrough after breakthrough. Within a month, Kepler-7 station was transformed. New docking bays were constructed to handle the increasing traffic of alien medical ships. Temporary housing units sprouted up around the station to accommodate patients and their families. The small frontier outpost became a bustling interspecies medical center. "I never expected this," Tae-ho admitted to Yiseo one evening as they watched the station's new activity through the clinic windows. Ships from dozens of different worlds came and went, their passengers seeking the human doctor who thought differently about healing. "Your people have a saying," Yiseo replied, her soul bond creating gentle patterns of light around them. "Think outside the box. That is what you do naturally. You see connections that others miss. You try solutions that others would never consider." A new patient arrived, a crystalline being similar to Yiseo's soul bond but much larger and more complex. Its translator spoke with urgency. "Dr. Kim, I am an elder of the Crystal Collective. Our entire species faces extinction from a genetic plague. Our greatest minds have failed. We come to you as our final hope." Tae-ho looked at Yiseo, then at the desperate alien before him. Just weeks ago, he had been a simple veterinarian on a quiet frontier station. Now the fate of entire species rested in his hands. "Let's see what we can do," he said, rolling up his sleeves. 2 months into his new role as the galaxy's most unusual doctor, Tae-ho was treating a patient when something extraordinary happened. He was examining a sick Zephyrian trader when suddenly knowledge flooded his mind, detailed information about Zephyrian biology that he had never learned before. He knew exactly which treatment would work, could see the genetic pathways as clearly as if he had studied them for years. Within minutes, he had cured a condition that had stumped Zephyrian doctors for decades. "Yiseo," he called out after the grateful patient left. "Something strange is happening to me. I'm starting to know things I never studied." Yiseo looked up from her own work, and Taeho noticed her soul bond floating nearby, its rainbow lights pulsing gently. There was something different in her expression, a mixture of guilt and wonder. "Dr. Kim, please sit down. There is something very important. I have not told you about soul bonds." Taeho settled into a chair, feeling nervous. "What kind of something?" Yiseo took a deep breath. "Soul bonds are not just pets or companions. They are sacred beings among my people, so precious that only the most honored individuals are chosen. By them, they are living libraries." "Living libraries?" "Each soul bond stores the collective memories and knowledge of our entire civilization," Yiseo explained, her voice filled with reverence. "Thousands of years of Lyrian history, scientific discoveries, medical knowledge, cultural wisdom, all of it is preserved within their crystalline matrices." Taeho stared at the beautiful creature floating between them. "You mean it's like a computer?" "Much more than that. Soul bonds do not just store information, they understand it, process it, and can share it with those they trust completely." Yiseo's eyes grew emotional. "When my soul bond was dying, it was not just my companion at risk. It was carrying the medical knowledge of 15 generations of Lyrian healers." The soul bond drifted closer to Taeho, its lights pulsing in what he now recognized as a pattern of affection and gratitude. "But that's not all," Yiseo continued. "When you saved its life, something unprecedented happened. My soul bond formed a consciousness link with you, something that has never occurred between a soul bond and a non-Lyrian before." Taeho felt a warm presence touch his mind, and suddenly he understood. The strange knowledge that had been appearing in his thoughts, the intuitive understanding of alien biology, it was all coming from Yiseo's soul bond. "It's been sharing Lyrian medical knowledge with me," he said in amazement. "Not just Lyrian knowledge," Yiseo corrected. "Soul bonds also absorb and store information from every species they encounter. Over the centuries, my companion has collected medical wisdom from hundreds of different civilizations across the galaxy." As if responding to their conversation, the soul bond projected a holographic display showing vast networks of information, healing techniques from worlds Taeho had never heard of, genetic therapies from species that existed before humans left Earth, quantum medical procedures that seemed like magic. "This is why your success rate has been so incredible," Yiseo explained. "You have been unconsciously accessing the greatest medical database in the galaxy. Your human intuition combined with ancient alien wisdom has created something entirely new." Taeho reached out and gently touched the soul bond. It chimed softly and projected warm, grateful emotions directly into his mind. He could feel its joy at being alive, its appreciation for his kindness, and something else, a deep sense of purpose. "It wants to help," Taeho said, understanding flooding through him. "It wants to use all this knowledge to heal others." Yiseo nodded, tears in her violet eyes. "You saved more than just my companion, Dr. Kim. You preserved the medical heritage of countless civilizations, and now that heritage chooses to serve through you." The soul bond's lights danced with what looked remarkably like laughter, as if it was delighted to finally have found 6 months had passed since that first desperate night when Yiseo had crashed into his clinic. Taeho stood in what had once been his small veterinary office, now expanded into a sprawling medical complex that served beings from across the galaxy. Ships arrived daily, bringing patients and doctors eager to learn from the human who had revolutionized interspecies medicine. Yiseo found him in his private office, reviewing treatment plans for the next day's patients. Her soul bond floated beside her, its rainbow lights creating a gentle glow in the room. "Dr. Kim," she said formally, "I have received authorization from the Lyrian High Council to make you an offer that has never been extended to any non-Lyrian in our history." Taeho looked up from his work, curious. Over the months he had grown used to Yiseo's occasional formal announcements, but something in her tone suggested this was different. "The Council has been watching your work here," Yiseo continued, pulling out an ornate crystalline device. "They have seen how you combine human medical intuition with alien knowledge to achieve what our greatest healers thought impossible. They want to make it official." She activated the device, and holographic images filled the room. Taeho saw magnificent Lyrian medical facilities, vast libraries of knowledge, and research centers that seem to stretch beyond the horizon. "We are offering you leadership of the first human-alien medical exchange program," Yiseo announced. "You would become the director of a new academy where healers from every known species would come to learn your methods." Tae-ho stared at the images, overwhelmed. "That sounds incredible, but I'm just one person. How could I manage something that big?" Yiseo smiled and touched another control. The hologram shifted to show medical equipment that looked like it belonged in a dream. "We would provide you with resources beyond imagination. Advanced medical technology from 12 different civilizations, research facilities that could house thousands of students and patients, and a staff of the galaxy's most brilliant minds." "But there's more," she continued, her expression growing serious. "The Council is also prepared to offer you something unprecedented, Lyrian life extension technology." Tae-ho felt his heart skip. "What does that mean?" "Lyrians naturally live for over 500 Earth years," Yiseo explained. "Our biotechnology can extend human lifespan to match ours, giving you centuries to develop and teach your healing methods. You would have time to train entire generations of interspecies healers." The soul bond drifted closer to Tae-ho, projecting feelings of encouragement and excitement. Through their mental link, he could sense vast possibilities, healing techniques, yet to be discovered, species yet to be saved, knowledge yet to be shared. "There's one more thing," Yiseo said quietly. "Full access to the Galactic Medical Database, every healing technique, every medical discovery, every treatment protocol, developed by advanced civilizations over the past 10,000 years. All of it would be yours to study and improve upon." Tae-ho walked to the window and looked out at the bustling station. Beings from dozens of worlds moved through the corridors, many of them former patients who had stayed to help others. In just 6 months, his small clinic had become a symbol of hope for species across the galaxy. "Why me?" he asked finally. "There must be doctors more qualified, more experienced." Yiseo joined him at the window. "Because you see healing differently than anyone else in the galaxy. You don't just treat diseases, you bring hope. You don't just cure patients, you inspire other healers to think beyond their limitations." She gestured toward the activity outside. "Look what you've built here. This started with one act of kindness toward a stranger's dying companion. Now it's become something that's changing medicine across hundreds of worlds." Tae-ho felt the weight of the decision. This offer would change everything, not just his life, but potentially the future of medicine itself. Tae-ho stood before the massive window of his new office, watching construction crews from a dozen different species working together to build the Galactic Medical Academy. What had started as a simple veterinary clinic on a frontier station had grown into something he never could have imagined. "The quantum medical scanners arrived this morning," Yiseo announced as she entered, her soul bond creating cheerful light patterns around the room. "And the first class of interspecies medical students will begin next month." Tae-ho smiled, still adjusting to his new title, humanity's first galactic medical ambassador. The past year had been a whirlwind of change, but every moment had been worth it. "I received the financial reports," Yiseo continued, handing him a crystalline datapad. "Your personal research fund now contains enough credits to fund medical research for the next 3 centuries. The Lyrian Council wants to ensure you never have to worry about resources again." Tae-ho shook his head in amazement. The numbers on the pad represented more wealth than he had ever dreamed of, but what impressed him more was what the money represented: complete freedom to heal without worrying about costs or politics. "The advanced medical equipment is incredible too," he said, gesturing toward the gleaming devices that filled the new medical wing. "That cellular regeneration chamber can heal injuries that would have been fatal just a year ago." Yiseo nodded proudly. "The Council voted unanimously to share our most advanced technology with you. Some of those devices have never been given to non-Lyrians before. But the most remarkable change was happening outside the Academy walls. News of Tae-ho's success had reached Earth, and human medical schools were completely restructuring their programs. Students now learned not just human anatomy, but interspecies healing principles. The simple act of kindness toward one dying alien had elevated all of human medicine. "Dr. Park just sent word from Earth," Yiseo reported. 3 more human doctors have been accepted into advanced alien medical programs. The Zephyrian Medical Institute specifically requested humans because of your reputation. Taeho felt a surge of pride, not for himself, but for his entire species. Humans were finally being recognized not for their technology or military might, but for their capacity for compassion and innovation. A chime sounded, indicating new arrivals. Through the window, Taeho could see a massive ship landing, this one carrying medical refugees from a war-torn system. These beings had traveled for months to reach the Academy, hoping for treatments that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. "The Andorian delegation is here," Iseo observed. "Their entire species is depending on the treatment protocol you developed last month." Taeho's soul bond companion floated over to him, projecting warm feelings of encouragement. Over the past year, their mental connection had grown stronger, and now Taeho could access medical knowledge from thousands of civilizations instantly. "You know," Iseo said thoughtfully, "when I first came to your clinic, I thought I was seeking help from a primitive species. I never imagined that humans would end up leading the galaxy in medical innovation." "We're not leading anything," Taeho replied. "We're just doing what humans do best, caring about others and refusing to give up when someone needs help." Iseo smiled. "Perhaps that is exactly what leadership looks like." As they watched the Andorian patients being carefully transported into the medical center, Taeho reflected on the journey that had brought him here. It had all started with one simple decision: to help a desperate being save her dying companion. Now that single act of kindness had grown into something that spanned the galaxy, proving that sometimes the smallest gestures could have the biggest impact. "Ready for another day of impossible cases?" Iseo asked. Taeho grinned, rolling up his sleeves. "Always. Only one worthy of sharing its ancient secrets."